flying in the face of conventional wisdom that says that in the face of a larger enemy, you must of necessity concentrate your forces. They were going to split them right in front of Hooker. The Confederate Army was not divided into two. It was now divided into three. 10,000 Confederates were sitting in Fredericksburg under Jubal Early, guarding the rear. 13,000 Confederates would stay outside Chancellorsville, the divisions of Anderson and McLaws, under Lee's direct leadership, trying to hold the attention of 78,000 Union Army troops. 27,000 Confederates would march off with Stonewall Jackson on a 12-mile flank march around the Union Army in a broad daylight maneuver across the Union front. This was probably one of the most amazing decisions that the Confederate High Command of the Army of Northern Virginia had made to date. The march started at 7 a.m. on May 2nd. 27,000 Confederates filed out of the lines, Jackson with them. Lee spread out the 13,000 to make the illusion that the Confederates had stayed in place. Lee came and watched Jackson's column file past. Jackson joined him briefly. Nobody knows what was exchanged, but observers noted at one point that Lee pointed down the road, Jackson nodded, then saluted and was on his way. And this became the last meeting of these two generals. They would never see each other again. This painting is a highly elaborate rendition of that by Giulio, called The Last Meeting. It's completely and hopelessly inaccurate from a historical standpoint. For example, these fellows did not meet outside snow-capped mountains. They met in a swamp. But this was a fabulous allegory of the war rather than a historical depiction. As you will see that Lee sits a little higher than Jackson, and that tells you that he's the commander, Jackson's the subordinate. The whole thing splits down the middle from light to dark, the dark representing the war. And you'll notice that Jackson's entirely inside the dark part of this painting, so he did not survive the war. His death is revealed by his head being uncovered and his horse's head being bowed. Lee's head is covered, his horse's head is up, so he was still alive when Giulio did this painting. And perhaps the thing that was most impressive to the people of the post-war South was which way Lee was pointing. It wasn't to the past, it was to the future. As Jackson had been a great leader during the war for them, they were looking to Lee at this point to be a great leader in the post-war. And so things aren't great. There are dark clouds on the horizon, quite literally. But with Lee still with them, Southerners see that proverbial silver lining. So that's the allegory of this painting. But interesting, the moment they picked was the last time these two men were together at Chancellorsville.